We got a lot of different types of synthesizers. Subtractive, wavetables, additive, FM, anything you can name. But there's one that's the most underrated. And even some of the people that uses this type of synths stay on the surface level. You see, modal synthesis aims to recreate the sound properties of different materials. I mean, by working with harmonics, they recreate sounds such as metal, glass, or wood, and their respective instruments. Like for instance a marimba, a xylophone, a bell, things like that. But as I said, even if that's the most common use for modal synthesis, I think that's just the surface level. The possibilities that this type of synthesis open up have a lot of potential. Of course, that depends on the kind of synthesizer that you're using, and today I'm using Pigments. Besides, I just released a preset pack, it's called Modus Vitae, because I use modal synthesis to create many different kind of sounds. But despite having some experimental presets, all of them are made to be useful for different types of production, so go and check it out. It's currently on Enterprise. Basically, the thing that I like about the modal engine is that it's not telling you which type of material you're going to create. I mean, in the timbre and in the form, sometimes you can see some materials like brass or nylon, and of course the difference between strings and beam, but those are not the main features. The things that are going to change the sound more drastically are the warp features. But that's the thing, one of the powers of modal synthesis is that you can get very experimental kind of sounds from non-existent type of materials. Now, before we continue, I know that every YouTuber asks for this, but give the video a like, please. I'm not making a living out of YouTube, and I know that not everyone can support me via Patreon or memberships. So the best thing that you can do is to give a like to the video, and that way the channel can keep growing. Now, if you want to go more experimental, of course you can disable the quantize. When you do that, you get more noisy kind of things, but the warp and the shape knobs can change a lot by small amounts. So you start exploring different harmonic relationships, creating very useful sound effects. Now, this is still some metallic or maybe more stringy and whatnot, but they are not reminiscent of an instrument or whatever. So there's a lot of space for exploration with this kind of modal synthesis. So this brings me to another point. Modal synthesis can be used to create more texture kind of sounds, not necessarily melodic things. And of course, with any synthesizer, you get more power when you start layering different things. So for instance, in this patch, the modal engine is being used more as a texture that goes behind the main sound. I feel like with it, the sound becomes more special, a little bit more different than a regular thing. So we are using modal synthesis for something that's more synthetic. Now, of course, that doesn't mean that modal synthesis on its own cannot produce other type of sounds that are not physical. For instance, using the different friction modes, especially the granular one, you can create very complex kind of pads. Again, if you listen to these pads, you may think, okay, yeah, it sounds a little bit glassy and whatnot, but it's not quite physical, it's not quite a material you can recognize, but still is unique compared to other synthesis engines. Of course, for better results, you have to use different effects and modulators, as you can see on the screen. But still, sometimes these effects are not there to change the sound, but rather to enhance something. For instance, as a stereo spread or a spacer and whatnot. Now, with all of this in mind, I experimented with using modal synthesis to create more synthetic kind of basses. Again, not reminiscent to any material or physical instrument. And I gotta say, the results I got are pretty nice. For instance, this patch right here is very punchy and hard. Now you can see that I have the modal engine and the analog engine, but this time is the analog which acts like a texture or something that's behind. The main sound comes from the modal, and I was able to fine-tune the type of sound that I wanted. I wanted to avoid anything physical but still get a unique kind of bass, something that's a little bit different from other types of synthesis. Of course, on some cases I got beyond on some design thanks to the filters that now Pigment 6 has. But still, as you can listen, these basses are very useful for different types of music. I mean, I could make from classic, clean, clicky kind of sounds to more aggressive things. Now, that doesn't mean that I think that modal is better than any other synthesizer, but it's a different kind of flavor, and that's important, at least for me. I think that every type of synthesis can give you unexpected results when you go deep with exploration and experiments. Of course, keep in mind that everything that you see on the screen can be modulated, and that lets you start changing things over time, not only in terms of a timbre, but also in terms of the nature of the sound. So I hope now you see why I think that modal synthesis is mainly used on a surface level. And I also hope that you start going deeper with it. Maybe this video was more like me nerding around, but I like it that way. Don't forget to check out my preset pack. Patrons already had 15 free presets from it, and I'm going to give them 5 more. But if you want to buy it, it's on sale right now on my webpage, so go and check it out. Thank you so much for watching, I will see you next time, and bye bye!